northwestern Ontario. We're close actually to the Manitoba border.
Okay.
We're much closer to Winnipeg than we are to Toronto, that's for sure.
Okay.
It's about we're about 5 hours from Winnipeg. And along the Minnesota border to the south. So geographically, like I said, quite spread out, our schools. And like our largest elementary school is about 350 kids.
Okay.
And then we have schools where we have like less than 30, you know. So it's quite a broad range. 3 high schools into the 3 larger communities. And so we have teachers coming on and support staff from kind of across the district. We also have some other PD going on today through one of our community partners. So our numbers might be down a little bit, but everybody who's here is going to really enjoy starting our day in this way. So we thank you for being here.
Sure.
Phone's going crazy, as you can hear, ding ding. Sorry about that. I'll figure out how to get rid of that.
Oh, you just turn the little, do you have an iPhone?
I know, but it comes through on my MacBook is the problem.
Oh, just click on your messages.
Yeah.
Like double, like 2 fingers, and then it'll give you like close or off.
Oh, okay. Awesome. I just got this, so I appreciate that. Quit. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the deal.
Yeah.
It's the 2-finger thing. I could not figure that out. There's no right clicking. I'm like, why is that? It's because you have
2 fingers.
Got it.
So, Christine, we have 22 people, and they'll be popping in. And we'll also, I hope it's okay, record it to share with the teachers that are absent.
Yep.
And, as you know, that we post them on the Connected North at Home website. So I just want to introduce the teachers that are here, and thanks for joining us on a busy Friday. To Christine Duval, and she is a teacher with Vinyasa Yoga for Youth and runs amazing programs for students and for teachers. We did this session with probably 25 teachers in Nunavut using video conferencing in February. And the teachers mentioned that it was their favorite session of the whole series, just because it gave them some time and validated why they were using some mindfulness strategies in their class, and those who haven't been gave them some strategies to use on the Monday when the students return, which is what we always love. So I'm going to turn it over to Christine, and she's going to lead us, and I hope you have a lovely half hour. And then we'll have a 2-minute break, and then we'll come back and learn about why mindfulness and yoga can be helpful in your classroom programs. So over to you, Christine.
Awesome, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Christine Duval, and I am tuning into you from Golden, British Columbia, in my home, of course. I also was a school teacher. My background's in education, and I've been working in the education sector for the last 15 years, sharing yoga in school through a nonprofit, Vinyasa Yoga for Youth. And so one of the things that the community was asking for that we worked with, we started out in Saskatoon and have expanded to platforms like this. And when children are in school, also lots of schools across Canada we work in. But one of the things that really we were being asked to do was to support teachers with teacher wellness. And so I really want to offer this half-hour yoga class as an experience for you, just to fill up your own tank, and hopefully to feel pretty good this morning, depending on how early it is in the morning where you are. You may or may not have already had a chance to move a little bit, but we'll start pretty slow. And of course, I'm not sure what people's experiences are with yoga, so this is just meant to be a really gentle, all levels yoga class that you can modify. You can take what you want. If something doesn't feel right, you can leave it out. just think of everything as optional and see how you feel. You may want to use a yoga mat if you have one in your house. You don't necessarily need one for what we're doing today. And this isn't necessarily how we teach yoga to children in schools, but this is especially a yoga class for you. So I hope you enjoy. So we'll start by just finding a comfortable seat. And if you'd like to close your eyes, or if you'd like to set your gaze on the floor in front of you somewhere. And when we're practicing yoga, we're breathing through our nose. So you can lick your lips and seal them shut. And as you drop inside with your own breath, you can just take a moment to notice how you feel. And maybe acknowledge where you are. So like I said, I'm tuning into you here in my home in the countryside and just outside of Golden, British Columbia. It's the unceded traditional territory of the Ktunaxa and Shuswap people. Surrounded by the mountains and really thankful to be able to spend time in nature. So if you can just silently make your own acknowledgement for where you are and what you're grateful for. And then just bring your hands up to your chest, and you can either place your hands on your chest so you can feel the chest rising and falling, or you can bring your hands to prayer position. And we'll just start to breathe together. So exhale everything out and breathe in. And exhale. I'm just going to count our in-breath. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Deep breath in, 2, 3, 4. And exhale, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just doing that because when we practice yoga, we want nice, long, deep, full inhales and exhales. We want the inhalation and exhalation to be the same length. And now we'll start with some really gentle movement. So if you want to flutter your eyes open, bring your hands down onto the earth beside you. As you inhale, lift your left arm up to the sky and reach it over your head. And you can look up under your armpit, or you can look straight ahead if that feels strange for your neck. Just stretching out the left side of your body. And inhale, come back up. And exhale, release. Right arm lifts to the sky. Breathe in, lift up, and up over the ear. Either looking out under your armpit or looking straight ahead. Breathing into the right lungs right now, expanding through the right rib cage. You can even have your hand there so you can feel your breath. Last breath out. Inhale, come up. Exhale, release. Bring your hands onto your knees. We're warming up the spine right now. So that was moving the spine in one direction or two directions, side to side, right and left. Now we'll move the spine rounding and lifting. So different motion that I can't necessarily explain with the right language right now, but you'll see what I mean. You know what I mean. Take a full breath out. Inhale, lift your chest. Imagine a little string pulling your chest forward. Lift your chest, stretch the front of your neck, maybe look up to the ceiling if that feels good. If not, again, keep the gaze forward. And then when we exhale, we drop the chest. Shoulders come forward, back round. You can stretch out your fingers, drop your head. Again, just a really gentle motion. Don't force anything, just within a natural, what feels like a very natural range for you. Okay, we'll go 3 times. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in. Chest lifts, heart opens, breathe out. Shoulder blades spread, our back rounds. Last time, inhale. This is seated cat-cow. The last one was seated half moon. Exhale, round. Come back to neutral. We've got those 4 directions covered, and we're going to go for 6. Spiraling now. Very gentle. First thing in the morning for me. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, with your hands at your heart, just as far as you can go without the hands moving to the right. Inhale, come back. Exhale to the left. Inhale, come back. Exhale to the right. Inhale through neutral. Exhale to the left. Inhale, come back. Exhale, release. So there's lots of things we can do to warm up the body, and that was just one example of warming up the spine before we start to move. And here we go now, coming forward onto our hands and knees. The most important pose, definitely one of the most important poses in yoga, child's pose. So we're going to come onto our hands and knees, take our knees out towards the edges of our mat. Again, if you're not on the mat, it doesn't matter. On your floor, it's fine. Drop your sit bones back towards your heels, and then come down, bringing your forehead onto the mat, or stacking your forearms to make a little pillow, resting your forehead on your forearms. I'm going to come out of the pose, but you can stay in the pose and take a few deep breaths, noticing the back of your body. So we don't spend a lot of time looking at the back of our body necessarily, but can you breathe in to feel expansion through the rib cage, through the shoulder blades, through the spine, just feeling the back broaden and lengthen as you breathe here, feeling the sit bones sink towards the heels. And if you can keep that silent counting of the breath in your head as something to focus on. So it's really nice to stay grounded in the present moment with our breath. And that's why we pay so much attention to our breath in our yoga practice. Now, from child's pose, stretch your arms out in front of you. I'm going to go sideways in case you're looking at the camera. You stretch your arms out, your elbows lift, and then you're going to come up to your hands and knees again. And we'll do the traditional cat-cow here on our hands and knees. So the hands, we want all 5 fingers really grounding down into our mat or on the floor. We want our hands right under our shoulders. We want our knees right under our hips. Maybe you can see yourself with your computer to use that as a guide. A nice flat back. And then we're going to drop our belly, lift our heart forward. This again is that sad cow pose. Take a deep breath in. And exhale, round your back, drop your head. And this is the cat pose. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. One more time. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Come back to hands and knees. Neutral spine. Tuck your 10 toes under now. Push into your hands. Again, heels start to drop back, or hips drop back towards heels. Heels don't drop towards hips. Press into your hands firmly. Start to lift your hips up to the sky. It's very early for me. My legs are really tight. So I'm going to pedal out my legs, bending one knee at a time. And we're in downward facing dog here. So I'm walking on the spot, pressing into my hands, lifting my hips up high, relaxing my head, maybe giving it a nice shake side to side. And then we'll take 3 deep breaths. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. And on your next inhale, start to walk your hands in towards your feet. Bend your knees. Rest your belly on your thighs. Hang out here. You can hold onto your elbows and gently rock side to side. Just feel the upper body, the spine and shoulders have a chance to let go, to release. And then you can release your hands. Hands come onto the legs. Our back is flat now, and we're walking our hands up our legs to come up to standing. So we're up and standing now together. I'm at the back of my mat now. And this is mountain pose. So mountain pose again, looks like I'm just hanging out, standing here, but I'm very firmly grounded. So my feet are pressing down into the mat. My toes are relaxed, but I can feel a firm connection with the earth, lifting up through the chest, opening through the chest, opening through the palms. And my gaze can be forward on the wall or down on the floor. Deep breath in. Deep, full breath out. Shoulders soften away from the ears. Breathing in and out. And then just feel in your feet. Are you more grounded in your left foot or your right foot? Or is your body naturally rocking side to side or maybe in a spiral? See if you can bring balance to the front of the foot, the ball of the foot. All places of contact have equal weight. And that sets us up really nicely to move into tree pose. So in tree pose, we're going to bring the weight of our body over our right foot and just lightly bend the left knee. And then you can open the left knee out to the side and make a little kickstand like I've got here, where the left foot is against the right ankle and your palms can come together at your heart. And if you're feeling really balanced this morning, your foot might slide up below your knee. And if you've been practicing yoga for a while or you want to challenge yourself even more, your foot might slide up above your knee. And we're in tree pose where our palms are pressing into each other and our foot and leg are pressing into each other to keep us lifted. And then any variation of branches, I'm going to open my shoulders a little bit, taking a cactus arms. You can reach your arms straight up to the sky. And if you're feeling really balanced, again, you can challenge yourself closing your eyes or looking up to the ceiling. Breathe in and deep, full exhale. Good. Inhale, palms come back together and knee shifts forward. Now we're just going to hold on to that knee, wrap your hands around it, pull it up towards your chest, take a deep breath in and exhale, release. Maybe shift a little bit from side to side, see if your legs feel any different, and end up with the weight of the body over the left leg. Right knee lifts just a little bit, open up to the right. Start here with a little kickstand and then decide, you know, it's a choose your own adventure tree pose where you want to go with this. And just because you did one variation on one side definitely doesn't mean you need to do that on the other side. It's really all about tuning in and listening to your own body. That's what yoga practice is about. That being present, that being able to listen and honor is very important and very much a part of our practice. When you're ready, take your arm variation. Another one I like, so I'll just show you, is interlacing the fingers, and you press them down and then right up to the sky. So flat palms, the palms are flat, pressing up to the sky. I feel that really nice opening in my shoulders, and then I just drop my shoulders away from my ears. And again, deep, full breathing. Hands come down. Knee comes forward. Wrap your fingers around your knee. Lift the knee. And exhale, release. Okay, the next pose, I'm going to turn sideways just so you can see my full body here. So the next pose is a warrior pose, and there's 3 different warrior poses, so we might try linking them all together. And again, lots of ways to modify these so that they feel really good for you, right? That's what we definitely always want to be, you know, a healthy place of challenging our body so that we're able to gain more mobility and flexibility, and we're challenging our mind to stay present and breathe through things, but also not going over the edge into like sharp shooting pain or things that we're like, you know, having to lose control of our breath to be in. So left leg lifts, and we're going to send the left foot back, and I'm going to go with about 3 feet here. And then I'm bending into my front knee, right knee's bent, left leg straight, hands on the hips. The hips are square to what could be the front of your mat, right? Hips are square to the front of your mat. Bending into the right knee, keeping that left leg straight. Maybe option to have the heel lifted as well. That feels really good and makes it more accessible for lots of people. And then your arms sweep up to the sky. This is warrior 1. Take a full breath in and a full breath out. Now look up through your hands. See if you can wake up your fingers, straighten your arms, breathe in and out. Now bring your hands down to your heart, and we'll open up for warrior 2. So when we open for warrior 2, our hips open and our arms line up over our legs. And I'm going to take my stance a little wider here, because in warrior 2, we want to be able to put our morning cup of coffee right on our front thigh. Maybe it's tea. Maybe you're really healthy and it's just lemon water. But you want to be able to have a 90-degree angle here. So I'm moving in that direction. I'm not quite there. And then flip your palms to the sky. Take a deep breath in and exhale, palms to the earth. Shoulders roll away from the ears. Inhale, palms to the sky. Exhale, palms to the earth. One more. Inhale. Exhale. And then bring your hands to your waist and straighten your front leg. And we're going to slowly bring our feet back together. And we're going to switch sides. So I'm getting ready for warrior 1. I can bring my feet to touch. And this time I'm going to send back my right leg. And bend into my left knee. I'll go the other way here. And so the thing about this pose is we want to make sure that our hips are moving in the direction of square with the front of the mat. If these were, we say with children and even with adults, like headlights on our hips, the headlights are pointing forward. Okay. Bend into your front knee. When you're ready, sweep your arms to the sky, and you'll see, I'm going to show you what I sometimes see in the arms. So legs are really strong, and then I look up, and this is what's happening with our arms. So see if today you can bring your arms into the pose, straighten them, drop the shoulders away from the ears, wake up the fingertips, wake up the fingernails, stretch. Breathe in and out. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. See if you can keep your eyes still on one point. One more deep breath in and deep breath out. Inhale, hands come to your heart. Exhale to open, warrior two. So again, different view for the warrior two here, but I've taken my stance a little wider. I'm bending deeply into my left knee this time. And the tendency might be, if you look down, that your knee is falling in. So can you push that knee out so it's in line with your pinky toe? Stretch your arms away from each other. Inhale, palms to the sky. Exhale to the earth. Warming up the whole body here. Inhale, palms to the sky. Exhale to the earth. Inhale, palms to the sky. And exhale, release. Straighten your front leg. You can maybe step your feet together in one nice big step. Good, and lift your hands up to the sky. And exhale, release. Okay, we're gonna come down to sit now. So just any way you want. There's all sorts of fancy ways to come onto our bum in yoga, but we're just gonna sit down today. And before we end class, we're actually gonna move right onto our back. So you're sitting down and then you're lying down, and we're gonna start by just hugging our knees into our belly. So you can hug in one knee at a time. And if that felt okay, bring both knees in. And if that feels okay, maybe rock side to side or draw big circles with your knees. Make sure you go in both directions. And then place your feet down on the mat, but take them out even further than hip distance. And then imagine that your knees are like windshield wipers. So you're just dropping knees from side to side. And then make sure your breath lines up with this movement. So take a deep inhale, come up. Exhale to the left. Inhale, hips lift or knees lift. Exhale to the right. Last time, inhale through center. Exhale to the left. Lift your knees one more time, give them a big hug. And then just spread your knees out slightly, reach through, grab onto your big toes and lift your feet to the sky. This is called dead bug or happy baby. And if it feels good, you can kind of roll again from side to side. Get a little bit of a free massage here, pressing your back into the mat. And then we're going to set up for the hardest yoga pose, the final rest pose, so Shavasana, where we're going to lay down and let everything go. So palms extend, or palms to the sky, arms by your side, legs slightly spread out wider than hip distance, feet just falling naturally to the side. Mouth natural, so breathing in and out through the nose, just really naturally, no control of the breath anymore. And we're in an active relaxation. So if we catch ourselves planning what's for breakfast or what's coming next in our day, we're just gently guided back into the body. And you can use the breath to be guided back. You can also use music, or you could use a mantra that you have. And every time you breathe out, see if you can let go a little more. Just finding a surrender, a stillness, a softness. then we'll slowly begin to bring movement just to our fingers and toes, wiggling the fingers, wiggling the toes, and then just gently let your head rock from side to side. Keep your eyes closed if you can. Stretch your arms up over your head, reaching through the fingers and the toes, and then bring your knees into your belly. And we're going to roll onto one side and just lay in a fetal position here for a second. And then plant one hand down in the top hand, plants down into the earth to press you up. And you're coming up to seated. And we're ending in the same seated position that we started our practice in. So we want to get the head, neck, and trunk in a line, sitting tall, coming back to the breath. And just silently noticing for yourself how your body feels, how your mind feels, what emotions are coming up for you. Just honoring your whole person, your whole self. There's no right or wrong way to feel. You don't need to tell anyone, but we're just taking that time to notice. Bring your hands to your heart or bring your palms together in prayer position. Bow your chin, bow your head towards your fingers. Just silently again thanking yourself for being here this morning and taking 30 minutes for yourself, for your own wellness. And then we bow to each other. Namaste. So that concludes our half-hour yoga practice. And I think Katie had said we would take a 2-minute break here, and then we're going to move into discussing the PD that we offer, Embodying Peace, is about integrating yoga into the classroom. And so it's normally a full day workshop, and then we also offer that in different pieces. And so we'll talk about that for 30 minutes when we're back together, but we'll take a 2-minute break here. If you want to grab a glass of water or have a bathroom break, go ahead.
Awesome, Christine. So we'll go ahead and we'll meet back at 10:04 our time. My time, 9:04 Mind Center time.
So I'd love to see the view out your window. I have relatives that live in Golden,
Oh,
and
really?
we were out I guess last March break, and I just wake up in the morning and just sit at my cousin's window and stare out at the mountain, and it's just so beautiful. It's
Yeah.
lovely there.
Yeah.
My
Well,
uncle lives on Mount Seven, so we go to his place, and I just think, every morning, it reminds me actually of where I live, which is, I mean, there's no mountains, but we have the lake. And
yeah.
what reminds me of the same thing is that every morning when you look out at the lake, it looks different. Just like when you look at the mountain, it looks different. Sometimes you can see the peak, sometimes you can't. Sometimes,
Totally.
like it's ever changing kind of.
Yeah.
But beautiful. You're lucky to live in such a beautiful place. I think my cousin, I said, like, do you ever get, so used to this view that you don't notice, kind of like sign blind, And then he was like, yeah, until somebody comes and visits and reminds me of
Exactly.
how beautiful it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So is everyone back now?
I think we could probably start. That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to mute myself here.
Okay. So welcome back. Maybe you didn't go anywhere. Maybe you did. We didn't go far though. So the printout that you would have received, it maybe is on your computer still, a PDF, is this one, and it says Embodying Peace Pathways to Wellness in Education. And so, like I was sharing at the beginning very briefly, this is a full day PD that we offer in schools and in school districts across British Columbia and Saskatchewan for the most part. And we were lucky to offer it in a half-day workshop through Connected North in February, which was great. And it's definitely something that we modify all the time. So we won't go through everything in here today. You can look at some of this. Some of it will be very obvious and make a lot of sense. And some of it maybe, just sparks your interest in coming to a longer PD at some point or continuing with your own study. We are talking about yoga in schools, and when we're talking about yoga in schools, we're including meditation and mindfulness under that umbrella. So we kind of use yoga and mindfulness interchangeably, and so a lot of the ideas and things that we integrate in classrooms are very small pieces of the practice that we did this morning. So we don't necessarily have time all the time to share 30-minute practices with our class, but our philosophy at Vinyasa Yoga for Youth is very much about making things normalized and integrated into the classroom on a daily or, like whatever your schedule allows, but, if things can be part of the routine. And so often we kind of had a chuckle about this because as schools are starting to go back in some places that we work, they say, well, we need to wait until we've established the routine. And really, I believe that establishing a routine could include yoga and mindfulness, and that would help, that would really aid in establishing that routine. And as a classroom teacher, I can say, for years I spent time thinking about, in theory, how I would like yoga to integrate into the school curriculum and how I would like it to look in the class. And then 3 years ago, I took a job as a grade 4 or 5 teacher and got to test all my theories. And some of them, yeah, like for sure, you have to know your audience and know your class and know who you're working with and what works and what doesn't. But a lot of it was working through that awkward period. So there was quite a bit of resistance often in the first month to the yoga practices, to the mindfulness activities. And then as they became part of the routine, I saw that children, wanted them, were asking if we were leaving them out for some reason, we're really missing them. And B, we're expecting them, even if they weren't necessarily enjoying them, they knew that it was a part of the routine, so they weren't resistant anymore. And so I guess my big takeaway for today, if I could have one Cole's note message, and we have a little bit of time to go into this, but not a lot, is just really that once you pick something, and you'll know this as teachers anyway, once you pick something, sticking with it consistently for a while is where you'll start to see the benefits kick in. We do have on page 2 a whole list of benefits, and this is something that we often share with schools. Lots of these benefits have been researched and studied. There was quite a few studies done. When I was compiling this information was about 10 years ago, and there had been quite a few studies done in the United States, and I know more and more studies are being done in Canada as well. But really we see yoga as a very holistic practice. So if you haven't practiced yoga, you might, typically think of it as being good for stretching and strengthening and building flexibility. But really the mental, emotional, and social emotional benefits are why we believe so strongly that yoga can be integrated into schools. And there's a lot of research on the brain. So often what I'll start with when I'm introducing yoga in a classroom is that Mind Up. Many of you, if you're teachers, will have seen the Mind Up curriculum, and they have that brain poster in that, and introducing the brain and talking about the different parts of the brain and what's happening in the brain when we practice yoga and mindfulness can be a bit of a buy-in for students who might otherwise be like, why are we doing this? And then the next thing, besides establishing your routine and normalizing these experiences for children, that I think is just so important to acknowledge is all the great resources that there are, and not necessarily feeling like as a classroom teacher, you need to become a full yoga teacher. I do think that if you practice yoga and you practice mindfulness, you'll be able to share it very authentically with children, and that's really important. But you don't necessarily need to go out and make all your own resources. So I'm going to talk about 2 resources today, and I've already even mentioned the Mind Up curriculum, and that's a great resource that you may or may not be following and using already. I definitely, when I was a classroom teacher, took pieces of that and left pieces of that, and that was totally fine. So the one resource is the Connected North flashcards, and these flashcards are different yoga poses. So on the front here you see turtle as a yoga pose. We didn't do this one today, but it talks a little bit about how to get into turtle as a yoga pose. Sit, bend your knees, bring the soles of your feet together, fold forward, tuck your arms under your legs, and rest your hands on your feet. And that's fine. You'll have to take it in the bedroom. I'm wearing them in pants and my tennis. And on the back, it talks about what the teachings of turtle are. So turtle reminds us to be grateful to Mother Earth. And so these flashcards were made by Strong Nation Publishing, which is a Canadian company. And actually I found out about them through Connected North, and now all of our Yoga for Youth teachers have them. And the deck that we had used before that was called Yoga Pretzels. And Yoga Pretzels, again, I use these for years with my class. Here's a pose that we did today, Warrior 2. So it talks about the qualities in Warrior 2, your focus, trustworthy, strong, and on the back, it gives very clear instructions broken into 4 segments on how to get into that pose. And so I think that using a flashcard deck is a great place to start. First of all, it's the visual, so students can see what's going on. And then there's lots of ways that I've worked with flashcard decks to integrate them into the classroom. And let's talk about a couple of those. So one time, this was with a grade 2 class, actually when my daughter was in grade 2, she's in grade 8 now, but her teacher had studied very in depth, I think, like at an academic level, the zones of regulation. And if you're not familiar with the zones of regulation, it's like a classroom management tool where you teach children about being in different zones of self-regulation. So the red zone, elated, the yellow zone, on the edge, excited, the green zone, ready to learn, good to go, and then the blue zone, kind of Eeyore, falling asleep. And so we worked to choose yoga because she was already using zones of regulation. That was her classroom management tool. We worked to build little yoga sequences with these yoga pretzel deck that would accompany the different zones of regulation. And I kind of have an example in here. And if you look on this page where it says, you know, a calming sequence, an energizing sequence, or a balancing and focused sequence, we would create little envelopes. And whether they said these, whether we were using this language or we were using zones of regulation language, we would have little envelopes at the back of the room with yoga mats. And children would go, because they were already learning about self-regulation and they were already learning about what they needed when they were in these different zones, they would go and choose the yoga sequence that was best suited for them. And so that was with a grade 2 class, like I said, that was doing a lot of work on self-regulation. With my grade 4-5 class, we did yoga for 30 minutes every week. And you would think, because I'm a yoga teacher, that I taught it all, but I didn't. I found it very exhausting to shift back and forth, thinking, planning, working with the curriculum into Zen yoga teacher mode. So we used an app, and it was actually an app for adults, and I can't remember the name, so that's not the best, but I will think of it. And it was where you logged into this app and you got to pick the length of your yoga class, how you were feeling that day, and it kind of customized a little yoga sequence for you. So we used that app for the whole year. We followed those lessons the whole year. And then we did sort of a yoga self-study unit. So every student in the class got to pick a pose that they really loved. And we were integrating technology with yoga and mindfulness, which was a little bit weird for me, but our principal had received a grant to do that. So I kind of just went with it. So we made like Pictello books on how to get into their chose whatever yoga pose they chose. They would make a book on how to get into that pose, what that pose was good for, when you might practice that pose, kind of what the meaning, the symbolic meaning of that pose was, if it was eagle pose or tree pose or warrior pose, what the story behind it was. And then we printed off really big, like, I don't know, 11 by 13 black and white photos of them in their yoga pose and plastered them over a whole wall at the back of our class. And then gave them the freedom to use that area of the classroom like a station. So, you know, when it's silent reading, or even when I was teaching, to be honest, they had freedom to go to that station, to pull out a yoga mat, and to be inspired by the wall that we had created as a class and choose poses that they needed. And that, like, we had some funny incidences, you know, I have some pictures where it's computers and there's a child on their yoga mat in a pose in down dog with their computer in front of them. And they legit did go over and use that. I did the same thing with a grade 8 class, and I wasn't their classroom teacher. I was their yoga teacher, and I was coming in once a week. And so we decided to try that same thing, and it didn't work at all. Because by grade 8, it was like, I don't want my class watching me do yoga at the back of the room. Just so again, like, knowing your own class, the age that you're working with, and what would be appropriate, I think is really important. Throughout all of it, though, that normalizing and establishing routine and using these types of resources, I think, can be very helpful. Another thing that we've done in different schools that I think received a lot of buy-in from students, I used to be what we called a yoga, we coined this, and it was a yogi in residence. So a yoga teacher at the school 1 day a week for 3 years, working with the same students. And I had picked grade 4, 5, 6, and then I followed them when they were in grade 5, 6, 7, and then in grade 6, 7, 8. And so building and weaving together the idea of leadership and yoga was something that felt really natural to me and worked well in the curriculum. And so we did things like having older students teach their care partners yoga. So getting together with the 2 classes, we did things like yoga assemblies. So having the grade 8 students prepare, they were really into kind of, you know, like the air band type idea or the routine, dance routine. So we picked their favorite song. Actually, we picked my favorite song, but we tried to go with their favorite song, but it was not an appropriate song. But we picked a song and we sequenced a yoga sequence to that song and performed it in front of the class. In front of the whole school at an assembly, and then spoke to what the benefits of yoga are and why we do yoga. We had another thing that we did in the school called Drop Everything in Yoga. So 1 day a week, and again, this would be a teacher that would take this on in the school, or a support staff. 1 day a week, when the lunch bell rang, I played yoga music over the intercom, very calming, soothing music. And that was sort of to get them to remind students, like, right, we're going to yoga. So right away, coming in from lunch, they're already kind of transitioning into the mindset of like, right, we're doing yoga. And drop everything in yoga instead of drop everything and read. Of course, we're coming in and we're doing 15 minutes of yoga to start our afternoon. And that was a very, I mean, again, we had some funny incidences with that for sure. But as it was established, we did that every Tuesday for the whole year. So again, established that routine. It became normal. It became something students could expect. And although I haven't done a lot of my own research, I have a lot of years of anecdotal evidence, of teachers saying like, oh, why was the class so good in art? The class is so great in art, with the art teacher every Thursday. And it's like, well, that's because they have yoga before. But then on Tuesdays, they're totally crazy. And so things like this that have happened, I can't even count the number of times throughout the 15 years, that just really points to how yoga supports, again, in that self-regulation for students. And a lot of students that we've connected with through the practice of yoga, that teachers, myself as a teacher, or coming in as a yoga teacher, other staff in the school had a hard time connecting with, but yoga allowed us to build a little bit of a bridge. It was like a common ground, because students that need to move their body a lot and want those challenges, we would do things like, hand balance poses, like crow pose, or handstand against the wall, once we could do that in a safe way and once we've established enough of a routine. And that really like gives the challenge to the students who need to physically move their body that they need. What time am I at here? Yeah, we're moving right along here. So lots of these are listed off here, poses that work well in a classroom. And we didn't do this morning, but this is a sun salutation. So it's a sequence that, if you'd like to learn more about, or if you are not familiar with, you could definitely find on the internet the sun salutation, but it's a full sequence that goes together. And then a lot of the balancing poses, children have a lot of fun with tree and eagle, chair pose, mountain pose. These are just poses that we thought worked well in classes because they can be done without getting on the floor. Classroom floors, some students are happy to lay on them, some not so much. I guess it depends on the classroom. But someone's typing in here, I play calming music in my classroom throughout the day and it helps. And I did that as well when I taught grade 4 or 5. And that is something, actually, now being home with my son, he was doing his journaling and I said, should I play some music? And he was like, yeah, can you play the classical music my teacher played? So he knew, even in grade 2, that classical music helped him to focus in journaling. The other thing that we recommend is the lighting. Like, I never had full fluorescent lights on in my class when I was a teacher. So just creating the environment that you want with whatever means you have. So modifying the lighting. I've been in classrooms where teachers are infusing essential oil. I don't think that's necessarily needed, or even, I know I worked in a scent-free school, so that wasn't recommended at all, or we wouldn't have been able to do that. But lots of plants, lots of natural light, different ways that you can modify the environment so that it is a more calming environment. Does anyone else? I guess you can definitely use the chat to type in things that you're doing, and I can share those with the group, or questions that you have. I'll keep going. If not, these more tips for the classroom and the mindfulness. These were simple things that we'll use just either integrated with a few yoga poses or on their own. And so again, you're probably familiar with these, but just getting students to stop and notice what's happening. And so I have a yoga for youth teacher that works with us, who's also a substitute teacher. And he, every time he goes into a school, does the 1 to 5 check-in. And I think as our last thing, I'll just lead us through that, and then we can wrap up. So we're going to stop everything that we're doing, put everything down, and bring your hands onto your knees. You can lick your lips, close your mouth. And I just want you to bring your awareness to 5 places on your body. So start with your pinky finger on your left hand. What's happening there? Move to your sit bones. How are they connected with the earth? What do you feel? Move to the palm of your right hand. What's the temperature like there? Move to the tip of your nose. Can you feel the very tip of your nose? Move inside your body to your stomach. What do you feel inside your stomach? Now with your eyes open, I want you to look for 4 different colors. Look at the color, silently say it in your mind, and then look to something else. Now closing your eyes, with your ears, I want you to hear 3 different sounds. Let's start outside the building. What do you hear outside the building? Come inside the room. What do you hear inside the room? Now come inside your body. Maybe cover your ears. What do you hear inside your body? Now we'll use our nose to smell 2 different things. Take 2 deep breaths in. And lastly, swallow once. What do you taste? Open your eyes. And so that's just an example of a landing practice that I would do, you know, maybe at a set time every day, maybe once in a while. Well, I feel very good, but now I'm kind of lost my train of thought because I feel so good. But I think that is coming up to the end, and I'm just wondering if anyone has anything they want to type in the chat as a question or a comment. I see that we have the link to the store. Yeah, so these cards were $12.95, the Strong Nation yoga cards. I think the shipping was $13, but I really have been very pleased with them and love using them, and I think work with the resources that are developed. Yeah.
Well, I'd just like to say I really appreciate starting the morning this way. It was an awesome way for us to start together. And I guess the strongest message that I've heard from you this morning that makes a lot of sense and resonates with me is that bringing it, whether the mindful, the yoga, and making it just a part of the normalcy of the classroom. I love the idea that kids can just get up and go and do what they need to do in order to bring themselves into a better place for learning. And by providing them with, you know, an area with some examples of things that they can do and materials that they need in order to do them, and allowing them to, you know, that's the self-regulation piece, right? Like you're co-regulating by teaching them the practices, and you're leading them to self-regulation by having that area set up for them. And I just can't say how much I believe that that is what we need to be doing in education for our kids.
Sweet.
I also really like that you brought forward the idea that not all yoga poses are great for all things that kids are experiencing. So the calming, you know, the calming poses, the ones to invigorate them, because I think, unfortunately, myself included, this was new learning for me recently, actually, that we've like, oh, yoga, well, that's just going to calm everybody down. But if they're not in a place of calm and we give them a balance pose that they can't do because they're not in a place of calm, we're really not helping the kids
No.
along.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really important piece that I don't know, that, like I said, for me, that was new learning just this past year, and a really important thing.
Thank you. And I will just say, I had one thing to say on that. Yes, throughout the years, more and more what I notice what children ask for are those relaxation poses. Even if they're, like I used to think like they wanted to do all the fancy yoga poses and balancing on their hands, and more students, what pose would you like to do today? Shavasana. Oh, yeah, we'll have that one. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I want to thank Christine for being so flexible to get up early to meet with us, because it is even earlier there in Golden, even though it's, you know, Paradise, it is a little earlier. And always you validate some of the practices that the teachers are doing with students. I've put the link to the cards in the chat. It's a bookstore in Nanaimo called Strong Nations. They are online only now. They've closed their physical store because of COVID. So they have lots of resources available for teachers, and the yoga cards were one of the gems that I found when I happened to visit that store. So thank you so much for spending a Friday morning with us, everyone. We'll see you again Monday morning, I hope, for our session with Janine. And we will I hope you take care and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Christine.
Yeah,
as always, this is awesome. And thanks, Barb, for facilitating. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.